Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Use Your Time Wisely. I've got two games for you. In the first game, I played e4. My opponents responded with d6, so we are in the Phillidor-defence. And here he pinned my knight to the queen. I took the pawn. My opponent responded with bishop takes knight. I decided to recapture with the pawn, which retroactively was a mistake. He played knight c6. I took the pawn. My opponent took back the pawn with the bishop. Normal move. I decided to play bishop b5, pinning his knight to the king. Knight e7. I played bishop g5 because I wanted to develop my bishop and have a double pin on the board, but there were some better moves. Pawn f6, bishop e3, getting my bishop out of the way. Queen d7, knight b3. And here my opponent played queen to h3, which I personally did not quite understand, but whatever. And this move, knight d5, was the first big mistake that I made during the game. I had some attacking ideas, which retroactively just don't work. He castled. I decided to play queen e2 because I wanted to long castle as well and develop my queen. Knight e5, long castle. He takes, I recapture, pawn a6, kicking out my bishop, bishop a4, queen f5, pawn f4, kicking out the knight. So I decided to play rook g1. And here, for some reason, I just didn't see it. I didn't recognize that this exists. I captured the bishop. He recaptured with his queen. I had to play king b1 and he took my bishop. So, as you can see, I'm already down a piece. I decided to capture the pawn on g7, queen f4, rook g3, queen b4, pawn a3, kicking out the queen, queen c5. Here I had the idea with d6 that if my opponent captures, that I have this pin, pinning his queen to the king. My opponent didn't fall for it. I played rook c3 anyway. Queen e5. And here, I didn't know during the game that this was correct, but I was low on time. I was desperate, and I wanted to try rather than to lose on time or lose in an end game that I go for the attack here. So I did. Queen e5, and here I took the pawn. He recaptures. What I didn't see during the game, obviously, because I'm not high rated enough and I lack the skill for this. Here I can just play d3. My opponent can play knight c5. I give a check. Capture. Now I have this. It's just a draw at this point because my opponent can never go over here. It would be mate. So this would be just a draw. But that didn't happen. I didn't see this during the game. As you can see, I'm very low on time. I took. He went to b8, and I decided to take the pawn. I responded to that move with queen c7, king a6, great move. Knight b6, blocking the check with the knight. Here I decided to play rook d5. My opponent has nearly 11 minutes on the clock. For those of you who don't know, you can just take this rook, and that's it. There's no more attack. It's just super losing for white. If I recapture like this, it's just over. My opponent, however, despite having that much time on the clock, didn't see this. He played queen e1 and rook c8. Played queen b5, giving another check. Pawn to d7. And now I am better. Rook d6, attacking this. Knight cannot move because it's pinned. Rook takes pawn. Rook takes rook. Cannot be recaptured because of the pin. King c8, queen c6, and queen b7. That is the first game that I wanted to show you. The second game started out with a normal Caro-kann, nothing special here. He plays e5, bishop f5, d4, pawn e6, d3. This was a weird line. I usually don't play this, but I saw something. Pawn c5, castle, knight to c6, a3. I took the pawn and then played bishop takes knight because I want to double his pawns. I thought this was a good line. Knight to g7, rook b1, rook b8, bishop d2, developing his bishop and attacking my queen at the same time. Rook fc1. And here I played h6 because I wanted to prevent all the shenanigans while also giving my king an escape square later, just in case. h3, castle, queen e2, queen d7. Here my opponent decided to play knight to h2, which was a mistake. I took on d4, d4. Here make the first blunder in the game. I played knight ef5. The correct response to this should have been knight df5, because I can prevent this pawn from getting taken, but you will see. I make the blunder, he takes, good move. And then I saw it, unfortunately, if I capture this bishop, he can just take my knight and we're equal. So I took, he takes. Another response to this move could have been knight c6, takes the pawn, and then you capture the bishop. But I didn't see that during the game. Knight f5, attacking the queen and getting my knight back to a good square. He takes the pawn. I decided to push the pawn. At this point, I fell down during the game. I thought, you're losing here, and why can I not just push this pawn? Knight f3, e3, rook d1, rook fc8, rook b3. Thought d2 works, just doesn't. Gave a check, and then I realized, wait, I have nothing here. Should have calculated longer, obviously. Queen c7, rook bd3, which is a mistake. b6, and my opponent traded queensmith with me. That's what I wanted. I wanted him to trade queensmith with me, which he did. Knight g5, and here I played rook c8, which is not a good move. I should have played according to the engine, of course. But if you think about it for a while, it actually makes sense. Rook f8, because you still keep control over the 7th rank and over the 8th rank. For example, they go here. You don't have to take the rook. You just don't. You're not forced to take the rook. You can play rook c5 or rook c3 or anything else. You don't have to take this rook. But I played rook c8, rook d7, best move. And then I found rook f8. Ironic. g4, knight h4, king g3, knight g6, rook a8. My opponent messed up here. He played rook b7 instead of h4, for example. So I got a free pawn with a check. He went to h2, king h2. I'm down to 1 minute and 56 seconds. And I thought during the game, wait a minute, I have this. But I just don't. This covers everything. I should have just taken the pawn here, which I unfortunately didn't do. He responded with rook f2, which is a miss. Rook f8 is also a miss. And here I decided to take the pawn and trade the rooks. He played king g3. I played knight g6. He gave me a check. I block with the knight. Takes. Rook a5, threatening the pawn. Give a check. And I'm down to 23 seconds here. I was very, very, very desperate. Tried to play some fast moves. Get him to make a mistake, perhaps. Maybe he panics. Maybe he thinks he has to put some pressure on you because of the time that he has and the time that you have left. Maybe he makes a mistake. I played rook a4, and he actually played king h5, which is a mate in 3. g6, king h6, and rook h4. As you can see, my opponent still has over 10 minutes left on the clock, and I'm down to 37 seconds. The message is the same as in all the other videos before. Use your time. It's so easy. You have so much time left, and these mistakes are all avoidable. Most of the time in these games, I'm behind in material and in time. And I can only come back because my opponents are not using their time well. So please don't be that person. Use your time. Alright, that concludes the video. I hope you found it instructive. Have a nice day, guys. Bye bye.